Welcome to Dark Horizon Creations. I'm Mike, and this time we're taking a look at the World of Halo Series 2 Spartan Air Assault action figure with Covenant Needler. Now, if you hadn't already, please follow, like, and subscribe to my social media accounts on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Don't forget to hit that bell icon so you get a notification of when I post new content. Well, we are just 5 days away from Christmas, my favorite day of the year. It's my favorite season of the year, and I'm one of those individuals who thinks that Christmas should last all year long. Nonetheless, we are here to talk about this action figure, the Spartan Air Assault from Series 2. And I have to tell you guys, this is a figure that I both like and dislike, and I passed this up many times as it hung on the store peg. The only reason I purchased this figure was to complete my collection from Series 2. Now, one of the things that stands out immediately about this figure is the fact that the right shoulder, bicep, and forearm armor have been painted in a blaze orange. I can't explain why they did that. The only thing that I can tell you is that from my perspective, it detracts from the action figure, and we're going to talk more about that after we remove it from the packaging. You can see that it does include a display stand as well as the Covenant Needler. Very quickly, let's talk about your obligatory product shots on the back of the packaging. You have the individually carded figures within Series 2. Keep in mind, these aren't all the figures released in this series, just the individually carded ones. The most difficult to find in this series is the Grunt Conscript as well as the Sentinel with the Sentinel Beam. They are the two rare figures that were difficult to find out in the wild. I've only come across them twice, once when I picked up the Grunt Conscript and then a second time later on when Series 3 was released. All right, we're back with the Air Assault Spartan from Series 2. I have to tell you guys, this is a really nice looking figure out of the packaging, despite the fact that the armor on her right shoulder, bicep, and forearm is blaze orange. And I'm saying her because this really looks like a female Spartan to me. And if you guys have seen Halo Forward Unto Dawn, you'll recall that Spartan Kelly was wearing this very same armor. Now, let's talk about the blaze orange armor because it's the elephant in the room. How do you deal with this if you own this figure or you plan to buy it? Well, you've got a few options. First and foremost, the easiest option is to simply apply a wash to those armor sections. And the way you would do that and to really control this is to apply a black wash. That's something you ordinarily wouldn't do. You know, you would generally use like a gray or a brown if you're trying to weather something. But in this case, I would recommend using a black wash because not only will it fill in the details, the panel lines and things like that, but it will really bring that orange under control and tone it down. And you're going to want to apply multiple coats of it. And after you apply each coat and allow it to sort of dry and wipe it down, you can see where it's going, you know, and just keep adjusting it, you know, and applying layers of that wash until it tones the paint down enough that it blends in with the gunmetal that they've used on the rest of the figure. The second option you have is to completely repaint those armor sections in gunmetal gray. And the way you would do that, I would recommend lightly sanding those sections of armor, particularly the shoulder armor, to give the paint, you know, surface area to bite. And you're going to want to use a gloss black for your primer or base coat. Once you apply that, then you're going to want to apply gunmetal gray as your top coat. Now, I have to tell you guys, the gunmetal gray that you have or that you choose to buy might not match the tint that they have used on this action figure. I use Folk Art metallics when I use gunmetal. There's also Model Master, there's Vallejo, there's just, you know, a ton of model paints out there that have gunmetal gray. And you're going to need to test it to see if it's going to blend in with the figure. If it's slightly off, you have a couple options to adjust it. You can go ahead and paint those armor sections in gunmetal and then apply a wash on top of that, as well as the rest of the figure to see if it's going to blend in. That's the easiest way to go about doing that. The other option is to clean that off, wipe it down, and purchase another tint of gunmetal to see if it more closely matches what they've used on the armor. Your third and final option is to completely repaint the action figure. Maybe you like the blaze orange on the right arm and shoulder and bicep, and you want to combine that with existing armor panels on the figure. So you can do that. And again, you're going to want to apply a gloss black as your base before applying the gunmetal or a orange. And this particular orange, if you were using the craft paint that I use, like Apple Barrel, it's going to be one of two colors. It's going to be that pumpkin orange or that jack-o'-lantern orange. Those two oranges look almost identical to what they used on this figure. And again, you know, if you find your orange standing out, you apply wash after you paint the figure, and it tones it down and gives it that metallic appearance. And to complete, you know, a repaint, whether it's just that arm or it's the entire figure, you want to apply a clear coat. And for a metallic sheen, you want a gloss clear coat. Now, Plaid, the parent company of both Folk Art and Apple Barrel, has a small spray can of acrylic clear coat in both matte and gloss. So that's a really great inexpensive option. It costs about $5 at Walmart, or you can go with something else like Krylon. They have a really great clear coat as well. So there's a lot of different options out there to remedy this situation with the blaze orange color palette they've chosen. I will tell you guys the selling point on this action figure is the metallic visor. I really like that, and it's disheartening that the subsequent Spartans in Series 3 and Series 4 no longer have a metallic visor except for the Master Chief. What they've done is they've decided to paint in the visor on the head sculpt, and there's really poor quality control there with that. If you've seen some of my previous videos, particularly Spartan Cavallino, that head sculpt is awful. It really is. But the fact that the visor is an orange color to match the other areas of the head sculpt and armor that are in orange, there's not a lot you can do about it unless you just totally repaint the action figure. You can also see the HUL attachment on the head sculpt. I really like that. On the left forearm, you can see the tack pad UGPS attachment there. But overall, the figure looks really nice, and you can see the weathering there on the head sculpt as well. So that looks really cool. As far as articulation, the head is on a nice ball joint. Forward and lateral movement at the shoulder, it's limited by the shoulder armor. Elbow rotation, single jointed elbow, wrist swivel, and let's see, wrist pivot as well. Torso's on a ball joint, and no waist swivel on this figure. Forward and lateral movement there at the thigh rotation, double jointed knee, ankle rotation, and pivot. Now for comparison, let's bring out the Master Chief. Now when you see this, immediately you would think that the Air Assault Spartan is a Spartan 4. That's not necessarily the case. If you recall, I brought up earlier Halo Forward Unto Dawn, the live action film, and there is a scene toward the end of that movie where they're standing outside of a Pelican, and the Master Chief is having a discussion with Kelly, and they are roughly this height. That's almost identical to the two actors in the film. And Kelly is wearing this same armor, Air Assault armor. So for a female Spartan, you know, that would be realistic for a Spartan 2 to be that height if it's a female. I can't see a male Spartan 2 being that height, but a female I could. And remember, the Master Chief is 6'9" outside of his armor. In the armor, he's 7'2" or 7'3". Kelly, I think, is around 6'7", I think, inside of her armor, if I'm not mistaken. Also included is a Covenant Needler. Looks really cool. It's made out of that same soft plastic, but I have to tell you, this is far more rigid than any of the UNSC weapons that I've seen to date. And I guarantee you it's going to be much simpler
for the action figure to grip the weapon. And the previous ones. As well. So that's really cool. I do wish they all had a Mark 50 sidekick and a holster molded into their thigh armor. I think that would be really cool. And you guys have probably seen the UNSC Checkpoint that was released, that box set. I think that's a great addition to the Spartans because it gives them some extra weapon options, particularly if they're like the air assault and they include a Covenant weapon. And this does not have a peg where it can peg into her back. And there's an indentation there where it looks like it would have gone on the thigh, but there's no peg there at all. And someone's probably going to ask, why did I say her? I think this is probably a female Spartan versus a male, just because of the armor selection and the height. I think this is a Spartan 2 versus a member of the Spartan 4 program, but that's just my opinion. I will tell you guys a box set that includes the blue Spartan with the Covenant action figure. I'm trying to remember the elite's name. Joel Rumnami or whatever he's called. That is a female Spartan in that box set. So guys, there you have the World of Halo Series 2 Air Assault Spartan.